Trump administration, with help from Republicans, they're going to repeal Obamacare right out of the gate. Our next guest says, maybe that's a mistake. Tax reform should be first. I agree with our next guest, by the way. The author of the book, The Great Equalizer, is with us. David Smick, welcome to the program, sir. Good to have you back.
Oh, it's great to be with you. It's been too long.
Look, I flat out agree with you. If you want to get America moving, if you want to liberate the great dynamism of American capitalism, you cut taxes first. I think you're with me on this.
I am. Well, it's much easier if you've got a roaring economy to gain leverage on Capitol Hill. But I think that the administration, they probably didn't expect to win. And since then, they've been on the defensive. They've mismanaged the expectations problem on the economy. I mean, I think the market said, oh, this is a repeat of the Reagan agenda, which in some ways it looks similar to the Reagan agenda, which meant a strong dollar and rising interest rates.
So you think the markets have got ahead of themselves?
I think the market's ahead because the administration kind of said, hey, let's cheerlead this. And that was a mistake because they can't get this done that quickly.
This is what I'm hearing. That first, we get rid of Obamacare. You repeal it, you replace it. That's not going to be very easy. It's not going to be accomplished in a very, very quick fashion, which means that the mammoth task of tax reform is delayed probably into the summer. I'm hearing maybe August. What are you hearing about the timing here?
It could be August before they actually have the vote because then they all go on vacation. But I think the Obamacare will quickly be repealed because that can fit on reconciliation. They can make some other reforms and kind of squeeze them on, but there are limits to what you can do by the Senate rules. And so the full replacement of Obamacare will have to go on legislation that will require 60 votes. And it is going to be, like most efforts to pass laws in Congress, ugly. Yeah. There are going to be a lot of negotiations and the rest. And the danger for this administration and for Republicans is that they get bogged down into this thing, and then when they turn around and eventually want to pass the tax part of it, all you need is 2 or 3 Republicans in the Senate who say, I'm not going to go along with it, and suddenly you can't get that through. So I think this is it's unfortunate for the administration because they didn't expect to win, and they haven't looked at the question of expectations and momentum here.
It's very disappointing for myself and for a lot of our viewers to delay until August or whenever the tax
I will mention, Stuart, I will mention one quick technical point. The reason they are going to delay is that they need to have a lower baseline for the budget. And that's the argument. So if you go a lower baseline, and if they went with tax reform first, the rates would have to be higher. I mean, that's a technical reason.
I'm just impatient.
But it's a problem. I don't agree. I agree with you.
Quickly on banks, they've been reporting some very good profit numbers. 2 of them in particular today, JP Morgan and Bank of America, looking very good. And the bank stocks, of course, have gone straight up since the election. Do you think that is a pointer for the economy?
I think it's the statement on the banks is Janet Yellen said they're going to be interest rate hikes. That's good for the banks. And I think the whole question of Dodd-Frank being reformed and the Volcker Rule being addressed, I think there's so much uncertainty with Dodd-Frank and the Volcker Rule that if the Republicans could just end the uncertainty, the banks will take off, and I think that's what the bank stocks are reflecting. But there are a lot of dangers ahead for the banks.
Sure. I
mean, there's a complicated Rubik's Cube. If the dollar takes off, there's $20 trillion of dollar-denominated debt around the world. I think there's a real possibility that Janet Yellen will not be able to do as many interest rate hikes as she has suggested because, frankly, it's not going to be Donald Trump who says don't hike rates. It's going to be her fellow central bankers around the world, led by the ECB president, Mario Draghi, who's going to say, if you're the central banker for the world, if you raise rates, we could go down. You
know, we all thought it was going to be just plain sailing. You cut taxes, the economy takes off, everybody's happy. Not that simple. David Smick, thanks for joining us. Don't be such a stranger. You can come back. We'd love to see you again.
And my book just came out, The Great Equalizer.
I'm glad you got it in.
I'd like to get that in.
We put it up on the top of the interview. We're not going to forget your book. I promise you that.
Terrific.
David, we'll see you again soon.
All right, good.